Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Diary of Terraria, where we have just defeated the Wall of Flesh, and the world has changed. Up until this point, I had racked up a reasonable amount of deaths, right? A reasonable amount of deaths, learning and figuring out the mechanics and stuff. I had no possible way of knowing that the next few hours would rack up as many deaths as I had done in the entire playthrough in just this area. It was unbelievable. I now know that this is called hard mode, but I didn't know that at all at the time. I just thought maybe some more bosses to spawn or something like that. But what immediately became apparent is the world had advanced in a way as if I had just completed a tutorial and now the actual game started, because everything could kill me in 2 hits. Literally everything could kill me in 2 hits at this point. I tried to start re-exploring, right? And the problem was, no matter where I went, I would die. And then suddenly, like within like the first day of this stuff happening, I got raided by pirates. And I was farmed. I was hard farmed. And not only was I being farmed by the pirates, and then a giant boat appeared in the sky, raining cannon fire down on me on top of this. It took about an hour to defeat the pirates. I was so woefully underpowered compared to what I had been just a few minutes earlier, really. After fighting the Wall of Flesh, I'd actually started to feel really confident in Master Mode. I felt like we were holding our own in Master Mode. We were, nicely defeating enemies. We were feeling really safe. And then suddenly everything was just crushed and destroyed. So about an hour in, I managed to get past the pirate invasion. But I'd also started to learn a little bit of how to face the boats. What it turned out is I accidentally, when I originally built PG Towers, is I'd actually created a really good defense spot away from enemies. They couldn't get up to me, which gave me some nice advantages that I've been utilizing since. But I did figure out the rhythm and the pattern to defeat the cannon boss, but I didn't quite have the DPS or the HP to get there. So that was really tricky, because I wanted it, at that point, my stubbornness kicked in, and I absolutely wanted to fight it again, but that will have to wait. What I did notice, though, is that I had a new hammer that I had gotten from the Wall of Flesh, which said I could now destroy demon altars. And demon altars were in, like, very highly dense in a certain area nearby. So that was my first mission, was to head over there and use this hammer to destroy the demon altars. My initial impression was that you could move a demon altar to your base, because you can use demon altars for crafting. But when destroying them, it actually added more materials to my world. It was like, as I destroyed, it was mithril, adamantite, and palladium, I think, got added to my world for each one I destroyed. And as I repeatedly destroyed them, it kept saying the message over and over again. So my guess was that by destroying more demon altars, it would add more of that resource to the world, which would be the next tier of armor, weapons, and so on and so forth. I was very concerned by this point. I was very concerned that this was essentially New Game Plus. Because once I got a little bit of this ore, like I got the mithril and stuff, and started checking its materials, it was basically the same armor again, but just slightly better stats. And not only that, a message appeared. I think it was like something's watching you, or a cold night approaches, something like that, while I was in my base. And I didn't know what that meant until Skeletron Prime appeared in my house and absolutely destroyed and wrecked my entire soul. But I'd already faced Skeletron, right? This was like Skeletron Plus. And then a similar event happened later, as something is watching you, and the twins spawned, which were just 2 big Eye of Cthulhu's mixed together. So I was like, I was very wary at this point. I was very wary that the game had just gone into New Game Plus mode, and we just had a little bit of extra mobs. And this was made extra clear by the Destroyer, which also turned up on my base, which was essentially the Eater of Worlds, just bigger. So I was very wary for the first few hours of playing this. I was like, if this is just New Game Plus, I kind of don't want to do anything, which is not what I want to see. What I did find, though, was a rainbow sort of tutti-frutti, colourful area with unicorns and fairies and stuff in it. Didn't want to investigate that yet. My first goal was to try and explore the areas I'd already seen to see what had changed. So I went over to the desert, which had become incredibly difficult. And what wasn't helped is that the corruption was spreading everywhere. I noticed that for some reason, since I killed the Wall of Flesh, corruption was spreading at an absolutely astronomical rate. And my guess is that killing the Destroyer will stop the corruption, because the Eater of Worlds came out of the corrupted area, and I don't recall the corruption spreading further after I killed the Eater of Worlds. And as the Destroyer is the big daddy of that mob, and also, you know, similar style with the big worm, is that destroying that will probably put a stop to the corruption. And I also don't know if the spreading corruption is bad. I could presume it's bad because it's spreading and taking over other biomes. But I did discover one of the vendors sold a spray which kind of pushed the corruption back because it was getting up to my front door. So a little bit of spray, a little spritz here and there, pushed it back, so I had some leeway with it. But it was like underground, it was everywhere. It was really, really bad. So I couldn't survive anything. Like, everything was one-shotting me, everything was killing me. And my game plan was to investigate all the areas that I'd seen before. So I started the next day getting attacked by goblins again, which had definitely been turned up a little bit. And then decided to do the pirate invasion again, because it started. But the rhythm that I had learned previously helped me out. And being a little bit more prepared for it, rather than the Zerg that I got on for day one, I did manage to destroy the boat. And got a new summon with 2 little pirate dudes that did significantly more damage than my other summon weapon. And also a boat mount, which allowed me to fly around. That was great. I then went to investigate other areas, like places that I hadn't seen anything of use in previous days. So I started with the frost biome. The desert was too dangerous. The jungle was extremely dangerous. So I went to the ice biome because I hadn't found a boss there yet. I really hadn't found any bosses or any reason for the ice biome to exist. And in there, I started getting attacked by, like, Thor's hammers. So I believe there's a new boss somewhere that is, like, hurling them at me. They kept coming from the same direction, and I did dig in that direction to see what was going on, to try and find whatever was spawning these things, but I never found it. And therefore, my game plan was investigate areas that feel relatively safe given my gear level while upgrading my gear. Let's get mithril armor, get adamantite armor, get palladium armor, whatever the top tier is going to be, so I could be a little bit more sturdy and start buffing up my defense in some way and getting it a little bit stronger. But I have to say, day 7 and day 8 of this, I made barely any progress and racked up like probably over 120 deaths, just trying to figure out what to do next. But I think the first plan is to kill the Destroyer. That will be my next plan.